Well, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting, City Council public hearing on June 30th back to order. Start with a roll call of councillors. Councillor Wright.
Good evening.
Good evening. Councillor Knack.
Good evening.
Evening. Councillor Principe.
Hello.
Hello. Councillor Stevenson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Councillor Paquette.
Hello.
Hello. Councillor Tang.
Good evening.
Evening. Mayor Sohi.
Hello.
Good evening. Councillor Hamilton.
Good evening.
Good evening. Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Salvador.
Good evening.
Good evening. Councillor Rice.
Good evening.
Good evening. And Councillor Jans.
Good evening.
Good evening. I think did I get to you, Councillor Wright, for your questions before the break?
No, I don't think so. But, oh, no, you did. Yeah, for, of admin.
Okay,
But-
so you'd be on a second round?
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Sohi, questions of administration.
Yeah, quickly to administration in 30 seconds. Can you give me why you supporting these changes?
Councillor, Mr. Mayor, we're supporting the changes as there remains of ample opportunity for redevelopment in our nodes and corridors, as well as in our urban mixed areas as designated by the district plan. The pulling back on opportunities of RSM in some locations is in response to what we have heard through the public hearing committee and from community members, and we believe it's a reasonable response to that.
Okay, and if these changes are approved, mid-block developers can still build up to 8, right?
If they have in the RS zone or the RS?
Yes, yeah, RS, yeah.
Yeah, there's still lots of opportunity for housing forms and unit configurations within the RS zone.
Right, and if a developer is really compelled to make a case to council to go beyond that, they would still have the ability to come to council for rezoning.
Correct.
Okay, good. That's I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our first round of questions. We have one more speaker. Let's do that first. Is Sam Mothana with us? Sam Mothana? No. Okay. Well, if are they online?
Councillor Cartmel, Sam Othana is on the Google Meet.
Okay. Sam Mothana. Okay. Can you
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. Yep, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. So my name is Sam Mathana, and I recently started my own company to basically focus in infill and missing middle. For the past 5 years, I worked for a developer who pretty much just built custom infill projects. They were on the high end of the scale, which, our cheapest house we built was $1.6 million without the land. But before I go into it, I just kind of want to highlight my story. I moved here in Alberta to Edmonton in 2004. And at the time, I made $900 a month, and my rent was over just under $400. I lived near the university area, and one of the things that really drew me to that area is how close it is to the river valley. I really enjoyed living being in a mature neighborhood. As time went by, things got more expensive. I could no longer live in those neighborhoods, and I basically had to move to the suburb. Luckily for me, once I started working, things went well, and I was able to eventually move back to Bonnie Doon and then back to Old Strathcona, just steps away from Milk Leak Ravine. Again, I was one of the fortunate ones where things, the stars aligned, and with a little bit of help from my parents and my wife's, my in-laws, we were able, as I said, to buy a house and actually build a custom home. My interest has always been in kind of affordable housing and high efficient buildings. And as I said, as time went by, things are getting more and more expensive. So as I said, I'm kind of a bit conflicted because I see other people's concern. It was certainly a concern when we built our current house. Right next to my house was a house that has basically 3 units for rent. And I was really concerned basically by buying a house next to this building. And I was afraid of the tenants or all the stories you hear. And I've been living here for a year and a half. And I could tell you there was absolutely nothing founded from what I was afraid of. In fact, I love my neighbors. I've interacted with them quite a few times. And again, they're very helpful. And as I said, I'm happy to be living next to them. And as I said, my main concerns were really unfounded. It was kind of afraid of the unknown. With that being said, I see as well, I see it from both sides of the equations. We need to be careful with infill. However, the affordability part is really what's driving me. Just this Saturday, I had a meeting with a family. So you have retiring parents and their 2 daughters, and they wanted to stay in the house that their parents has lived in for quite a bit. The house is quite small, roughly around 700 square foot, and it's just not enough to for all of them to fit. And one of the discussions we came about was, okay, can we build them a bigger house? And we quickly ran through some numbers, and what ended up happening, it was just simply too expensive. The only way where we could make it affordable for all of the 2 daughters and their families to live in the same neighborhood where their parents grew was to actually add more units and have rental income. So most of the people that will be taking benefit of higher density is not just developers or investors. There are real families who want to live in the same area where they grew up. And the only way I feel to be able to afford that is to increase the density and have more housing in the same lot. We looked at the value of their lot. It was roughly around $450,000. We were looking at about $1 million to build the house, and between the two families that wanted to kind of move into that neighborhood, the mortgage payments would have been just simply too high. So I urge all councillors to consider this when making any proposed changes. We really need to think about the future of all of Edmontonians, especially when it comes to the mature neighborhoods. It is really something to be cherished. And in the last 30 seconds, I want to say having more affordable housing actually leads to more diversity. As somebody who came here with nothing, I was forced to move out of this neighborhood due to the lack of affordable housing, and I wasn't able to move back into the same neighborhood until, as I said, my situation has improved. So please consider that when voting for these changes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions of our speaker? Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to attend, and appreciate you waiting until after the dinner break to take your turn. We've had 1 round of questions of administration, So take a motion for an additional round.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Yeah. I'm for Rutherford is yeah.
Just waiting on 1 vote. Mayor Sohi?
Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Principe.
Thank you, Chair Cartmel. I do have a question for administration. If one were to make an amendment to the recommendation that administration has put forward today, what would happen? Let's say I was to suggest the removal of criteria E.
So with the removal of additional criteria, it opens up the amendment even more. So by meaning that opens up, it changes the amendment, which would require re-advertising in terms of moving it forward. So it wouldn't be able to be done today.
So then,
Councillor Principe, we're just going to check in with legal just to
Yeah,
confirm.
no, just to clarify on that one, I don't think that there would necessarily attract a need for re-advertising on that sort of an amendment, so it could be potentially possible from the legal standpoint today.
The advice then is that the amendment being suggested would not result in re-advertising, a need for re-advertising.
Based on my understanding, you're looking to remove E, is that correct?
well, not exactly just that. Let me clarify. So the what I would be looking at is to create either a motion or a subsequent motion so that at least A, B, or C is one of the criteria when considering at least 2 criteria. Would that need to be re-advertised?
Sorry, I thought you were just looking to remove E. I think sort of taking that additional step forward probably gets us into that gray area where I would recommend re-advertising.
Okay, so in order for this to pass today, if it were to pass, if I were to make this amendment now, it couldn't be passed today, is that correct?
Correct.
But
So,
we might have to see your actual amendment, and that would come after, presumably after first reading is on the floor, or
Right.
when first reading is on the floor. It doesn't have to, I guess. It could come after.
Yeah, I think it could.
Public hearing?
Yeah, you could make an amendment after the fact, but I think if you want to ask questions and debate, like in that sense, I would make it before you close the public hearing, because if you want to have some questions
Sorry,
about
that
that
could be
amendment,
information.
yeah.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Principe, please go ahead.
yeah, no problem. What would administration recommend? Could I do a subsequent motion?
Subsequent motion is always open. If you would like the chambers and council to know the amendment prior, you can put it on the floor. But then that would be subject to debate and voting as well prior to the closure of public hearing.
Okay, thank you. I intend to be moving a subsequent motion after.
Did you want to move it as an amendment first and see where it got to?
No, that's okay. I'll just move it as a subsequent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of administration? All right, take a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, pardon me, new information. Is there any new information? I knew I was missing a step. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to go back to my question about a gap. And so I think what I'm understanding is that there could be circumstances where we would support RM, like a low rise, but we wouldn't necessarily support RSM.
Correct. It would not support RSM H12 specifically.
Yeah.
But Councillor, if I could just add, the important thing there is, though, the site size and context would have to be appropriate. So in terms of these mid-block single lot situations that have created a lot of interest, it's very unlikely that we would see RM as being appropriate on those. You'd need to have a consolidation and have an appropriate site size.
Great. Okay, so administration is not feeling like this will get you to a position where, well, and you know, sometimes we may not want to support a lower intensity zone if we feel that there's higher potential in a strategic area, but you're not seeing a conflict with potentially supporting something that's higher scale, but not something that's a bit lower scale.
I would say not if the site size isn't changing.
Okay.
And so we really wanted to try and target those mid-block single lot situations, and we're very much intending not to just allow that policy to be used to switch to the RM zone because it's a low-rise zone if the site size is not changing.
Oh, gotcha. So it wouldn't, can you talk me through the wording that does what you are suggesting? Because I think that's a good approach. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it.
The intention is the references to the site size and context.
So that's the 2.5.2.7.
Correct, yeah.
So consider additional scale of low rise or greater. And so I guess my question, but we wouldn't consider additional scale of higher intensity, small scale and low rise.
So that policy would not apply to the RSM H12 zone is how we would interpret it.
But I guess where I'm, so let's say you had a consolidated, let's say you had 4 mid-block unit lots. We would consider low rise, like RM, but we would not consider RSM.
That's currently how this would be interpreted, but there is potential that, you know, if somebody were to consolidate 3 or 4 sites, they could maybe use the RSM zone, but I don't know why they would. Like, if it's going to be an appropriate size site for the RM zone, that's clearly the better option in terms of, you know, the number of units or the site layout and those kind of things. Because the RM zone really is designed, in terms of setbacks and all that kind of stuff, is designed for those kinds of situations. So theoretically.
So, yeah, Councillor, where they're in the situation that you've described, where there's a consolidation of lots, the site's size, so the consolidation, and then the context is appropriate. If it's appropriate for low rise, it would also be appropriate for RSM. But as Andrew was saying, the RM also provides lots of opportunity for configuration of development, and so.
But you wouldn't feel compelled, like, let's say there were compelling reasons, the developer really wanted RSM instead of RM, or there was some sort of, you know, contextual piece where that just fit better. Right. You wouldn't feel constrained in advancing that.
No, if we're comfortable with low rise, we would be comfortable, and RM, we would be comfortable with RSM.
Okay, perfect, great, really appreciate that clarity. That's all.
Thank you. Any further new information? Any further questions of administration? Take a motion on closure of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Jans and seconded by Councillor Wright. Please vote. Closure of the public hearing on items 3.1 and 3.2.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi.
Councillor Rutherford, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried.
I'll move first reading.
Second.
First reading moved by Councillor Jans and seconded by Councillor Wright. Speaking to first reading.
I can close quickly.
Just gotta wait. Okay, Councillor Jans to close. Oh, Councillor Stevenson.
Good, we're good?
Councillor
Okay.
Jans to close.
So very quickly, I know a lot of the attention on today's discussion had focused on the unit count around 8 or 6, but I will also want to just share with you that this item is for at least 5 neighborhoods in my ward, almost as critical as getting closure on. We've had a number of, there's one developer in particular, there's others who have bought a lot of lots mid-block and are effectively rolling the dice and are trying to say, can we upzone this one, this one, this one, this one, and on and on. And what you're doing here with this amendment, and by supporting bringing this amendment forward, thank you for doing that, is giving a bit of surety and clarity to residents about where those upzonings should go. I think we all broadly know that we need density, and we all broadly know that it should probably be around transit. But should it be in the middle of a block 3 blocks over, or it should be on a corner of a block closer to the station? What we're getting here is clarity, and clarity is kindness to residents, to everyone else. The fact that you got a letter of support in your inboxes, I'm not sure if you had a time to see it, from the Belgravia Community League, I hope adds some levity to why, or brevity to, wait. God, I'm tired. Levity, brevity, wait. Skibbity-dibbity. Okay, so, yeah, please support the motion. Please. Thank you.
Please vote on first reading.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Second reading.
Moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Jans.
Consideration of third reading.
Second.
Consideration of third reading. Moved and seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Just waiting on one vote.
Waiting for me, probably. Sorry.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Jans.
Third reading.
Second.
Third reading moved and seconded. Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Second. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
Yes.
Councillor Jans. Thank you, Mayor Councillor Rutherford. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Okay, there's at least 3 subsequents to that item. Before that, I want to return to calendar management. Councillor Knack, do you have a motion you care to make?
Yes, can I ask just one quick question of the clerk to make sure I've got the right
Please
motion?
go ahead.
Thank you. I just want, and maybe to our admin staff. So we've already planned for Thursday till 5 p.m. We have the potential of a light council meeting tomorrow or Wednesday, which means we wouldn't need much of Friday beyond a time specific. Would staff be available to continue this meeting on Friday if needed?
From admin, yes.
Okay. And from a clerk's perspective, we've already set aside that day, so we have it. Okay. All right. So I think there's probably 2 separate motions. One is orders of the day motion, which would be to move that we continue this public hearing on Friday upon completion of the council meeting. There probably needs to be a 30-minute break between when the council meeting ends and when the public hearing would continue. So 30 minutes after the meeting completes Friday.
I think, Councillor, we'd want a particular time for anybody who's coming. Hooking it to an arbitrary time could mean that folks who want to come and speak won't catch you.
Why don't I say
effectively.
10:30 a.m.? We're gonna hold ourselves accountable and say 10:30 a.m. On that.
Hi. We can't, no. Council, you can't preemptively shorten council's time. If you want to stop the council meeting, if you would like to change orders for the city council meeting and confirm that this starts at 10:30, that's fine. You either resume the public hearing when the council meeting finishes 30 minutes after, if that event happens. If that doesn't happen, you need to change your orders of the day for the council meeting first of all, please.
Okay. I feel like I have to then fine-tune the wording then. Let me just make sure.
I would take a motion to change the orders of the July 3rd City Council meeting to be complete by 10 a.m. on Friday,
10 a.m., absolutely. That's what I'm gonna move. Yes.
July 2nd City Council meeting to be completed by 10 a.m. on July 4th.
Yes.
Seconder for that?
Second.
Thank you. Please vote on changing the orders of the July 2nd City Council meeting to end by 10 a.m. July 4th, Friday. That's the motion on the floor. Please vote.
Sorry, point of order. Can you clarify that? Councillor Nag earlier asked for 10:30, so this would.
No, he asked for 10:30 for the next meeting to start. The 10 o'clock is when
Okay.
the first meeting will finish.
So that means Friday will have 30 minutes to
Correct.
finish. Okay.
Please vote.
We're just loading the vote. Did we have a second?
Yep, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson.
Yes.
We're just calling the vote. Loading the vote, pardon me.
Thank you, Mayor.
Some yes.
Thank you. Just waiting on 2 votes. Councillor Rutherford? We will mark Councillor Rutherford absent. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Now take a motion to change the orders of this meeting to include Friday. Councillor Knack?
Yes, I'll be moving that this meeting will continue on Friday, starting at 10:30.
And completing at
5 p.m.
with the normal breaks.
With the normal breaks.
Seconder?
Second.
Councillor Wright, please vote.
Just give us a second to
Sorry,
load the vote.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Oh, okay. Mayor Sohi, please go ahead. Questions?
So my question is, what happens if we don't finish the agenda?
Well, there is a pending motion to adjust the agenda. Failing that, items would be pushed off to a subsequent meeting, or the orders would be further changed on Friday.
So we will have the ability to change the order on Friday to carry on Monday if we wish to.
Well, not yet. There's still some motions to be made, so that depends on the votes of motions not yet made but are coming in a moment. The first motion.
No, I got it. Okay, but got it. I understand what you're saying. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor, Councillor Wright.
Well, thank you. To administration, I'm just curious how the flow of applications is managed for public hearing. Like, it just seems to be all ramped up here in the last couple of months.
So there are a lot of applications. That is not unusual. They are all trying to go before this council before it breaks for the election. That happens every 4 years, and so it is just a fact of business.
Okay, so it's just the applications that are ready to come forward. It's like, so does your department sort of rush to get them through, or?
The review time takes the review time. Once they're ready, they're scheduled. We're mindful of how many items can be on each agenda, but that can only be managed so much. We are legally required to bring these applications forward for public hearing.
As they are ready to come forward,
ready.
you can't hold any back until, okay, I just wanted to get that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please vote. This vote, again, is to extend the meeting to Friday.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That is carried. Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Councillor Cartmel. So the final motion would be to still make an agenda management decision here, which would be to essentially then postpone. I'm going to do postpone all items except for items 37, 38, 39, which are all the exhibition land item. That's a single item. And then 3.32, where we have our large number of speakers. Postpone those to the August 18th public hearing, which in the near future will be extended to include 2 further 12-hour days, but has not yet been done. Sorry, I'm introducing it ahead of time.
Second.
Quickly introducing now, that it's in second. Yes, so we have not yet, as a council, approved the 2 additional days in August. There will be 2 additional days in August to serve as an overflow for the August 18th public hearing. So that's why these can all go to that. I think part of the debate is, do we leave them on between now and Friday and sort of roll the dice? I think, again, we haven't had a lot of success on that. So for me, I'd rather just make it clear these are the 2 items that absolutely need to be finished before recess. Everything else might still be frustrating for people, and you can ask questions and debate specific items, and you're welcome to do that at the appropriate time. But I think I'd rather just get those all off and make it clear that they're all going to be dealt with over the course of what would now be a 3-day, 36 hours of public hearing over the course of about 2 weeks. So that's why I'm making the motion as is, but feel free to ask about specific items. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions on the motion? Councillor Wright?
To administration, how many do we already have scheduled for August 18th?
So there were items that were pushed off from a previous public hearing for August. There's also items waiting to be on there, but as Councillor Knack mentioned, there's a possibility of 2 extra dates that would be sufficient to clear the deck.
Okay, so in the presentation from the previous item, it says in review RSM applications 42, 35, 33, like, are all those in the process of coming to public hearing?
Eventually, yes. They now that council made a decision on RSM, there's a decision made by the applicant on whether or not they want to proceed pending the new rules and whether their chances of success, and they need to weigh that against an application that's already been paid for and reviewed. We will do our review based off of the new policy just passed. So there's some work that needs to be done.
Okay, and you said earlier that we are required to have them come to public hearing.
If they so choose.
Okay, but how many more public hearings do we have to schedule before the election? Like, are we going to be facing?
So right now,
additional days into
there's
September?
2 with the possibility of 2 more. So there's an August one in September.
Right.
There's a possibility of 2 more August ones, which will help get the applications that are in the lineup to public hearing for a decision.
And at what point do we say no more applications?
So as we move forward and each of these agendas are filled up, there's a decision there if we can get them to that September date, which is the last one. And so there will be a conversation with the applicant on how to manage that as well.
Okay, so should we be blocking off time in September for extra days? Clerk? No? Don't you dare, she says. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Questions or to speak, Mayor Sohi?
Yeah,
No, we're not speaking. Do you have questions or speaking?
Oh, to speak, sorry.
Okay. Councillor Paquette, question?
Yeah, thank you. Just looking to the clerk, if we're postponing, is there any other steps that we should make before we postpone?
Yeah, so I appreciate the chance to add. It would be really helpful to create the space before postponing the items. It just gives a bit more clarity. So right now, in furtherance to what Travis said, you already have a regularly scheduled council meeting for public hearings on August 18th.
Yep.
It'd be great if you could add August 28th and 29th and be specific on the hours you would like those meetings to continue. Create those extra days, and then when you postpone these items, if you could also be clear on which items you'd like to come first. If you'd like the items from today to be stacked on top, Travis hasn't yet released the agenda, so there's a bit more flexibility. And in response to Councillor Wright's question, just a friendly reminder that after September 22nd, the MGA does not permit us to schedule any meetings, and all of your calendar right now is still full. But again, with Council's direction, we can always make adjustments to your calendar.
Okay, and will you need that included in this motion, after this motion, or table this and then?
If it was a friendly
If it's a friendly
amendment to adjust the motion on the floor to include the additional days of the 28th and 29th, being specific on the hours, if it's 9:30 to 5 or 9:30 to 9, and then add the postponement of these items, and then also to
Okay.
encourage UPE to be creative with its agenda.
So you will type it out faster than I will?
I will type it out.
Okay, great, thank you.
Well, so that's effectively a friendly amendment.
Oh, okay, so it looks like it's already here. Wow, that was really speedy. I will move that we amend this motion to include that a special city council meeting, a special city council public hearing be called on August 28th and 29th from 9:30 to, it says 5 p.m., you're saying 9? I'll say 5 p.m., we can always change that, for the purpose of continuing the August 18th, 2025 City Council public hearing. Now, do you also need an indication in this motion about how to prioritize those items? Maybe not.
Let's take them one at a time.
Yeah.
So there's an amendment on the floor to add those two dates. Need a seconder?
Second.
We started friendly and then we got formal, so now we need a seconder. Mayor Sohi has seconded it, so let's vote on that amendment first.
Councillor Cartmel, we are going to ask that the motion be slightly changed so that we are not calling a special council meeting. Instead, we are changing orders of the day for the August 18th.
In that case, I withdraw the motion and put forward a friendly amendment with that revised wording.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I think we should go 9 p.m.
Okay, lots of side talk. So we have a friendly amendment, which is getting rather precise, nevertheless, to add to the August 17th public hearing the dates of to change the orders of the 17th PH to include the 28th and 29th, 9:30 to 5.
And Mr. Chair, there is, I'm hearing some chatter, will from council to make it till 9 p.m. My concern with that is that if we finish earlier, we won't need that, and we'll already have that time scheduled. We can always extend time, but I leave it up to the wisdom of council. I'm going to suggest it's better to extend it to 9, and then, because if you're trying to stretch staff, that's harder than trying to reduce staff hours. So I think it's better to maximize and then cut short. I'm easy either way, but so that would be the friendly.
Okay, so then the friendly amendment would be that the orders of the August 17th public hearing be changed to run from 9:30 to 9 on the 17th, the 28th, and the 29th, with the usual breaks.
That's the one.
18th, pardon me, 18th. The August 18th public hearing to include the 28th and the 29th.
We're just loading the vote.
Oh, okay.
Is everybody clear what we're voting on? I was just waiting for it to be displayed, but.
Just give us one more second.
I'm sorry, Councillor Cutnell, I do have a clarifying question, if you don't mind.
Okay. Hold on the vote, but please continue displaying the motion. Mayor Sohi, questions?
Yeah, so I understand there's two parts to the motion. One is to extend the orders to add those dates, and the other one is to postpone the items. I would want us both them separated because I would not be supporting the postponement of the items.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Cartmel, so to be clear, we'll begin with the continuation of today to August, or to, pardon me, to July 4?
I think we've done that motion already. The motion we're on is to change the orders of the August 18th meeting to be August 18th, 9:30 to 9, August 28th, 9:30 to 9, August 29th, 9:30 to 9. That'd be the first part of the motion.
My apologies.
You know, a stitch in time saves 9. I think we're all good.
It's not circling? Okay. We are having technical issues with eScribe at the moment and can't seem to load that vote.
I'm a yes.
Just hang on, just hang on. It's hard to track when you're trying to run a computer and use a tick sheet. So, do you need a few minutes to reboot?
Yes, please.
Okay, 5-minute recess.
Thank you. We are ready to continue.
Okay, let's get back to order. So the first motion in front of us then is to change the orders of the August 18th public hearing. So it's on the screen. Please vote on that change.
We have all the votes.
I think we need to recall the vote, please. We're voting. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's recall the vote, please. And please put the motion back on the screen that we're voting on.
There it is.
Okay. Speaking to the motion, Mayor Sohi.
Yes, I will support the first part, which is setting aside the dates, right, for carrying on with this business over the next month, but I would not be supporting the postponement of items. People have waited months and months and months to get on the agenda. And I've been stressing to the administration over the last 6 months that we need to manage that agenda. And here we are. We're going to punt those decisions to another month and a half. That's real money for people. We're going to lose a construction season on many of those developments. And we are in a housing emergency. And we are creating so much uncertainty by passing on these decisions to the future dates. And so much uncertainty by publicly stating things without making motions at council that are creating so much anxiety among developers, anxiety among communities. That's not what we expect to do, right? So I understand that we need to find dates because we have a backlog now. I understand, absolutely understand that we need to find those dates. But we should not have this backlog to start with. People are signing multiple times to speak this council on same issues that we settled last year because we are giving them false hope sometimes that somehow things will change. Yes, there's been other things, right? So I would support the finding more dates, but I would not be supporting the uncertainty and the cost to the business, the people who are investing in our city in housing. They need to know that when their application is going to be in front of council, the day they have given, that day will be the day that council will hear their application, not into future months.
Thank you. Councillor Principe.
Thank you, Chair Cartmel. I actually had wanted to remove 3.23 and 3.24 from the motion to deal with it. I only...
Okay, so I tell you what, that's not what's in front of us, so maybe when we get to the next part of the motion, please bring back on.
So now we are only voting on changing the date.
That's right. Just
Okay.
what's in front of you on the screen.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Paquette?
Yeah, thank you. After hearing the mayor's rationale, I can't help but agree. I still think that we should have these dates. We can always release them if they're not necessary, but we should have these dates. And if there is an alternate motion, and I don't know if there is coming up in order to extend or to expedite some of these things faster than waiting for the entire summer, I'm all in favor of it. I am available. I will cancel my plans in order to come to work, make sure things get passed. Of course, I should actually probably be closing because I moved this, but whatever. Obviously, I support that, but I would absolutely support any motion to expedite this process much faster. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, can you take the chair, please?
I have the chair.
Perhaps to the clerk, the intuitive alternative here would be to continue the meeting from Friday to Monday for however many days it takes to complete this agenda. Are there staff available? Are the people here from administration? Maybe that's the first question. Is there clerk staff available past Friday?
Full confession, I haven't checked the schedule. Council is due to start its recess. Anytime we look at changes to council's calendar, we actually always start with your availability. Right now, at this particular moment in time, I can't confirm who's available over the recess. If that's something you'd like us to canvass, I would start with your offices, and then I would need to check, obviously, if clerk staff are available, and I cannot speak for administration.
So we're not sure we can clerk a meeting past Friday. We might be able to, we might not. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. We have to check. Maybe to Ms. Petrin, just as the leader of the team, thoughts on availability of persons to speak to any of these items past Friday?
We'd have to take that away, just given that it's a planned council break. That's what we've accounted for in terms of staffing. So we'd have to look at that similar to clerks.
Is it fair to say that when council plans to not be here, admin and clerk staff plan to also not be here? If there's an opportunity to take a break, that's when they take it?
I would suggest our team is still working and delivering service, but
Yeah.
notwithstanding that, as it relates to supporting a public hearing, there are adjustments in terms of when we take our break.
Those are my questions. I'll take back the chair.
Return the chair.
Any further questions on the item in front of us, which is changing the orders of the August 18th public hearing? Hearing none, please vote, unless anybody wants to speak to it. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That's carried. We then have the second part of that motion, which was the postponement of all items on this agenda, save 3.32 and 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, to the now changed August 18th public hearing. Councillor Principe, you want to offer an amendment to this part of the motion, I guess.
Thank you, Chair Carmel. Yes, I'd like to also include item 3.23 and 3.24 to be dealt with on this agenda.
Okay, amendment on the floor. Would you like to introduce Councillor Principe?
I will likely not be able to attend the August 28th, 29th meeting, and I do have questions on these items. There is no one to speak on these items. However, I would like to vote on this item after asking questions.
Okay, can we put that amendment on the screen then? Which is effectively to keep 3.23 and 3.24 on this agenda.
Just one moment.
Okay, well, that's coming onto the screen. So we have an amendment on the floor to add items 3.23 and 3.24 to those items which are not being moved. In other words, to keep those items on this agenda. I think Councillor Salvador's questions are come after this. Councillor Wright?
No, I'm just wondering how long the other items that we're putting forward to August 18th, how long have they been ready to go? Like,
They would have been ready for this agenda, which would have been about 4 to 6 weeks ago.
And they wouldn't have been ready, or were they ready for the previous agenda, but just there was already too many items on there?
Not sure, but typically it would have been just this agenda ahead of time.
Okay, and were you anticipating this many speakers to come forward on the 3.32? Or that was because that was postponed from the other, or from urban planning?
3.32, we expected a number of speakers on it. It was directed to come here from urban planning.
Okay. Because I do acknowledge Mayor Sohi's concerns, and yeah, we're losing construction season. I'm almost.
Questions? Thank you. Councillor Stevenson? Councillor Salvador is not on this item. She's on the next item.
Sorry, and I just want to understand the construction season concern a bit more, because my understanding is that typically after a rezoning, then the next step would be getting development permits. So is it likely that they would be issued, and then building permits, is it likely they'd be issued this year, or this season?
Depends how the applications are structured. Each one's a little bit different with different timelines in terms of working in congruent streams. Some of the ones that we know that had a strict timeline were the exhibition lands one. In terms of the other applications, I don't have a line of sight in terms of where they are, but typically a rezoning subdivision development permit is the continuum. And they would be able to start those pieces earlier if it was held today.
But early enough that they could be in the ground before the snow falls?
It depends what kind of application it is again. If it's go straight to development permit, possibly. If you're looking at subdivision, you're probably looking at more next year.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm going to pause here. The timer's not changing, which makes me feel like we have an e-scribe problem. So just want to make sure that all systems are go. We're done with questions on the amendment, but the amendment is not on the screen.
It's now loaded.
Okay. Any further questions on this amendment? Okay, please vote on this amendment.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. That amendment has passed. So the motion now, the second part of the motion now essentially reads that all items from this agenda be postponed to the August 18th agenda, except 3.32, 3.7 to 3.9, and 3.23, 3.24. That is the motion in front of us. Questions on the motion? Councillor Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. I guess my question is, if we do not postpone, does that risk creating a situation where we don't complete 3.32 and we potentially have an open public hearing over a long break?
I urge you to finish 3.32 within this public hearing, because you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. You could be in an open public hearing which has limitations, as you know, which may be difficult to manage from a practical standpoint.
Right, and compared to, and totally appreciate the arguments around wanting to get these through and dealt with so that folks can have some certainty. But given the number of speakers we have, being able to complete that sooner rather than the other ones, I guess that reduces that risk?
Yes, if you complete that and close that public hearing, we've closed off that risk, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm skipping over Councillor Stevenson and Wright because I think they've had their opportunity. Okay, that's old list. So Councillor Hamilton.
Having now brought forward or included 3.23 and 3.24 in this, given that there's no speakers to speak to it, and I did give Councillor Stevenson a very hard time a few weeks ago for selecting out something with no one in opposition, is it possible for those parties interested in the items of 3.23 and 3.24 to ask questions of administration, bring forward the item for voting purposes, and then speak to it.
That question's to me, right? Correct?
I can't speak directly. I
Oh,
have to
right,
speak to
yes.
the chair, but would that be amenable to the chair?
So to bring that item forward now?
No. No. So it's on the agenda now. There was a practice in one time that if you had something that you wished to vote for, or if you wanted to vote against it or to vote for it, but you didn't have to ask questions, you might select it out for voting purposes and then advance it because it didn't need to go through the ordinary process. And you would be able, for instance, to speak to it.
I think that would be a subsequent motion. Like, once we get through all of this, if there's a motion to bring something forward that is still on today's agenda, that motion can be made. And if it's made under the pretense that it's for voting purposes only or something along those lines, then it can be made at that time. I would remind us all that there's 3 subsequent motions to the item just completed that we're losing traction on, so.
Anyway, that's all I had to say, is just to keep on top of the pace of the agenda to select things out for voting purposes.
Right, okay, thank you. Councillor Wright? Okay, any further questions on the motion in front of us? Again, for clarity, these items on the screen are the ones we will keep working on. All the rest go to August 18th, should this pass. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried 10-2. So, this is the effect then. Remaining on this agenda are subsequent motions to 3.1.3.2, the work on 3.7 to 3.9, the work on 3.23, 3.24, and the work on 3.32. In that order, unless there's a motion to bring something forward and quickly vote on it. As I understand it, the items that were postponed from the previous public hearing will be first on August 18th. Then the items from this public hearing will be second as a group on August 18th, and then any other things that find their way through admission to a public hearing will come after that. Is that a reasonable summary, Mr. Pollack?
It is.
Thank you. Are there any other agenda management motions to be made? I will return the chair to Mayor Sohi, and I have a subsequent.
Thank you, Councillor Cartmel. Really appreciate that you carried on the day. It wasn't easy. It was a lot of juggling things to do, so really appreciate that. Okay, now to subsequent motions. Councillor Cartmel, you have yours. We'll go deal with that first.
Great, thank you.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I have shared my motion with the clerk, so it can be put on. And appropriately dealt with. So my motion is as follows. That administration, 1, initiate an update to Edmonton's 15 district plans to prepare for citywide growth to 1.5 to 1.75 million people based on detailed analysis and community input to guide growth and change in a context-sensitive manner. And 2, enact a moratorium on development approvals for mid-block properties zoned RS until the district plan work in Part 1 is complete.
Second?
Thank you. Can you make the introduction, Councillor Cartmel?
Yes, I can. Thank you. So we have heard, I have heard consistently that while that the people are very concerned about these mid-neighborhood, mid-block rezonings. Effectively, all the stuff that we've heard today, I don't need to repeat all of it, but essentially the large multi-unit buildings that are arriving mid-block adjacent to long-established homes in long-established neighborhoods. We've heard that while there's some potential changes to our zoning bylaw that we're going to discuss later in this meeting, that those are improvements that are in the right direction, that people nevertheless have a concern that this is happening too fast, that it's happening too much, that it's coming at people very quickly. There's been a lot of suggestions for further refinements. There's been questions about, at least in my mind, frankly, what the impetus is for all of these rezoning development applications in these neighborhoods in a relatively short period of time. There are concerns that we're actually working against affordability and affordability of homes rather than in favor of it. That some of the points that were implying that we're in a period of crisis are actually beginning to wane. Our own economic update, Q1 economic update, indicated that we've never had more housing starts in Edmonton than we're having right now, and supply is by far the best thing to meet housing demand. Clearly the demand is there, but the supply is there too. We're also seeing indications that rents are beginning to at least stabilize. So there's a reasonable opportunity to pause this work while we get better clarity on some of the adjustments that we might make, not just the ones that are coming in this meeting, but some further adjustments. Take a bit of a pause and get to a point where we can bring people with us. Because what ultimately will happen, I think, is what we're seeing in terms of restrictive covenants, which are neighborhood-wide, not just context-specific. I can speak more to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cardwell. I know our legal folks are raising hand, right? So I would come to you, right? So I need to know, I'll start with part one first. So if you could focus your attention on part one. Is part one in order?
I have no legal issue with part one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about part two?
So I think part two, Mr. Mayor, would have the effect of contravening the Municipal Government Act, and so likely would be out of order. But of course, that would be up to you as the chair to determine.
Yeah, I remember that. I know if that memo was public. We did receive a memo from administration.
You received confidential legal advice.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
That's correct.
And oh, sorry. Okay, okay. Confidential legal advice. Are you comfortable sharing some of that confidential legal advice in the public? Why this is not in compliance? The part two is not in compliance with MGA.
Well, I think that's the Assembly's confidence to waive, and not mine. So I'm seeing some nodding heads. Happy to sort of take you through the really quick back of the envelope review of this, but the Municipal Government Act provides that every municipality must have a land use bylaw. That land use bylaw must separate the municipality into districts, and each of those districts must have permitted or discretionary uses in them. And when an application is made for a permitted use, the MGA provides that the development planner must issue that permit for the permitted use. Council's ability to affect that or change that is vis-a-vis the zoning and the zoning bylaw and the zoning process, and not vis-a-vis motions and moratoriums to try to override bylaws. Is that satisfactory in terms of an overview?
Yeah, and as chair, I know I rather focus on part two first, right? So get some sense from council colleagues whether they're comfortable. My understanding of the legal advice, confidential legal advice, that part two is not in order. So as chair, I would like to rule that part two is not in order.
Challenge to the chair.
You challenge? Okay, that's fine. Yep. Okay. Want to go to clerk? What is the next step? Chair's decision has been challenged.
Thank you, Mayor. So a second isn't required when there's a challenge to a ruling. We go to a vote, and 1/3 of members in favor will uphold the ruling. If 1/3 do not vote in favor, the challenge is upheld.
Okay, and we go directly to the vote.
Yes,
Okay, please vote on the challenge, on the ruling of the chair.
correct.
So
Yes is
Yes is that I am ruling that part 2 is out of order. If you agree with me, vote yes. If you disagree with me, vote no. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Just waiting on one vote. Thank you. We have all the votes, Mayor. We do not display the votes on a challenge because of how eScribe thinks incorrectly. I will
Call
tell
for
you
division.
that the vote
Thank you.
carries 8-4. Therefore, the mayor's rule is upheld.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order, though.
yes?
Can you read out who voted in opposition?
I don't know what the process is. Again, I'll go
Could
to
the-
legal.
Can I call on the clerk to call?
I need to seek advice on what the process is on.
Yeah, we're always happy to call out, since we can't display it on the screen, just give us a second, and we're always happy to call out how everybody voted.
Okay,
Mayor Soe was in favor. Councillor Cartmel was opposed. Councillor Hamilton was in favor. Councillor Jans was opposed. Councillor Knack was in favor. Councillor Paquette was in favor. Councillor Principe was opposed. Councillor Rice was opposed. Councillor Rutherford was absent. Councillor Salvador was in favor. Councillor Stevenson was in favor. Councillor Tang was in favor. And Councillor Wright was in favor.
okay, thank you. Now we are on part 1, which is in order. And we will go to questions on part 1 from council colleagues. Who would like to start?
I believe I was on the board, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry?
I
You
believe
were?
I
Okay.
was on the board.
Councillor Jans, please go ahead.
Thank you. I guess my question is to legal. So hearing that part 2 was out of order, if the mover wanted to, he could just reintroduce a motion to revert all properties back to the zoning they were in 2021, correct?
If you're talking about zoning under 12,800, there could be a motion, a subsequent motion, but we would have to rescind 20,001, bring in 12,800, and rezone the entire city once again.
But if the mover
I am going to intersect. We have a motion on the floor. Focus your questions on that, please. Not what has been already ruled out of order.
Okay, so could you display the motion back, please?
Can you do it?
I guess I'll ask the mover, without the moratorium, is part 1 still valid?
Well, I was trying to get on myself because I have a question to administration about a motion that might already be out there that is similar to this one.
Is the clock running for my time, or? I guess I asked the
You ask
question.
him, you ask the mover a question.
I asked the mover a question,
The
then the
answer
mover-
is, so carry on with your time.
So the mover said they're trying to get on the board. Okay, I'm trying to understand what the mover is doing here. Like, what is the point of number 1 and what is the point of number 2? It feels like you
Number
said
2
it.
is not on the
But it
floor,
feels-
Councillor Jans.
Yes, I understand, but the mover had an intention here.
Doesn't matter.
What is-
Number 2 is not on the floor.
I'll ask Mr. Chair, through you, I will ask the mover, what is the point of the first part of this motion?
Yes, thank you.
Well, earlier today, I asked several questions about engagement. I noted through my questions that engagement on the city plan took place between 2018 and 2020. I asked about subsequent engagement on the zoning bylaw and on the district plans, and was advised that yes, some further engagement were done. I have my own views on just how widespread and all-encompassing that was. I would note that the early engagement was done in 2018. We had a bit of a discussion about the periodic reviews of municipal development plans, and we heard that they are reviewed on a modest basis every 5 years, and
So
on
thank
a
you. So I
more
guess what the
comprehensive
mover,
place every 10 minutes.
what the mover is trying to do is get more engagement at a future date. This has no material impact on this year or effectively, I guess, the next year, given the fact that forecasted 1.5 is multiple years away. This is not a short-term action.
Is that a question, Councillor
Yes.
Kentz? Well, again, if I were permitted to finish my answer to the first question, we have seen that we got through what we thought was more or less a 10-year population increase in 5 years. So I'm not sure that anybody knows how far away 1.5 million is. Might be 5, might be 10, might be 20. But in the meantime, we should really engage, because that would mean that we would have added 500,000 people to our city between the city plan engagement and whenever this engagement happens.
So this is a go forth and engage to a future date, at a future time for future decisions that maybe, this is not a, I guess I'm trying to figure out why this is a subsequent motion now and why this could have been moved at any time over the last 4 years.
Sure, but today we are talking about the district plans. The previous, however many hours it's been, 10 hours, has been a discussion around district plans, policy changes within those district plans, and I think that while I supported the policy change put forward, there needs to be more engagement on those district plans, and I'd like to see that happen, and I'd like to see that happen soon.
I guess where I'm struggling is like people voiced today, they want action now. This is like, how do we square that circle?
Well, I would submit that part of that part of this engagement would be on the district plans that speak about the specific neighborhoods that have come to this hearing and express those concerns. I would also note that there was repeated efforts to bring 3.32 forward and start that discussion today too, which failed.
Which I voted in favor of. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Knack, we need a date on this, right? When would that initiation of the update will start? Any ideas from administration on timing-wise? Any other scheduled updates that could align with this update?
Yes, I could comment,
Yeah.
Mayor, and perhaps take the liberty just to note, and Councillor Cartmel did note this, there was a subsequent motion that was very similar to this that Council approved last fall, October 2024, and it had very similar direction in terms of go do engagement, go do some more technical assessment, look at the nodes and corridors, have we picked the right widths for those? There was elements of what do we do in the transition zone, very much what we talked about with the 2526. And there was how can we map all of this better to give the community more information in terms of what they can expect. And so that work, that similar motion had a date of returning in Q3 2026.
Q3 2026. Councillor Cartmel, does that achieve the objective of this motion, or?
Yeah, yes, Mayor Sohi, that was frankly the subject of the questions I was trying to get on the board to ask. I guess the one remaining question I'd have is if, the Q3 2026 date could be advanced.
Okay, maybe that's a question to administration. Can that, I'm sorry, I'm using my liberty as chair to get through this quickly, right? So can that date is appropriate, first of all? Can it be advanced, and what would it achieve?
The date as is would be quite a challenge from what we expect to do. The ability to make it go faster would be to limit engagement, which is not, I believe, the intent.
Yeah, no, that's not, Councillor Cartman's intent either, right? So
No, it's not.
Okay.
So with that input, Mayor Sohi, I'm happy to withdraw this motion.
Okay.
And wait until Q3 2026 for some further work.
Got
Thank
it.
you.
So motion is being withdrawn. Okay, cool. Right on. It's withdrawn. Thank you. And then there's another subsequent. Is that, who's that from Councillor Principe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would like to move that administration prepare amendments to District Policy 2527 to require at least one of the criteria outlined in subsections A to C to be met for consideration of additional scale under the policy and return to a future council public hearing for consideration, due date Q2 2026 City Council public hearing.
Second.
We have a seconder. Can you make the introduction, Councillor Principe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, one of the reasons that I'm bringing this forward is that I understand the desire to increase density around the nodes and corridors. However, the way the policy is currently written, it's any two criteria, which could include corner lot and or an adjacent higher development. And what I would like to see is what I believe our intention to be is to be focusing around the nodes and corridors. And with this subsequent motion, I do believe that we'll see, that's the intention of that, to see more development around the nodes and corridors.
Thank you. I'm going to go to legal to seek advice. Is this subsequent in order?
I don't see any legal issue with the request, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Questions? Colleagues, questions? Councillor Tang.
So maybe to administration, if you can just clarify some implication of this. From what was already approved, we are limiting the developments to, like, for nodes and corridors already. What does this do?
Councillor, this further restricts where the RSM can be applied, and across within the urban mix. So it makes the criteria harder to meet.
Okay,
Councillor, if I could just clarify, this policy applies to low rise or greater. So we would actually consider RSM to be small scale. So this consider policy 2527 is about low rise or greater, and effectively it means that if you're meeting the two criteria, they can't be D and E. Those can't be the two criteria, and any other combination would work.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor and conclude the questions. Anyone to speak? Councillor Principe to close. Oh, Councillor Knack, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Mayor Sohi. Yeah, as I was going back and forth, like, my first gut reaction would have been, I would have liked it maybe to come to urban planning to at least have a discussion about it. Because like I'm interested in exploring if there's value in this, but I think I'll still probably say yes. Although it might have been, I should have thought about it before. I can't make an amendment anymore, which is the problem, because now that I thought about it, I wish I would have made an amendment just to come back to urban planning first. So it's too late to make that amendment, I'm guessing, because I'm speaking to it now. Correct, Mr. Chair? Yes, you are. Okay, thank you.
You're speaking to it, yep. Okay. Done? Okay. Anyone else to speak? Councillor Principe to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this is we were talking about the domino effect in communities and mid-block, and that's why I was bringing this forward. And I'm just hoping that my colleagues will consider supporting it. It's to, in my opinion, to focus on the areas where we had suggested to folks that we wanted to support is more density closer to the nodes and corridors. Thanks.
Thank you. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay. Are there any other subsequents on 3.1 and 3.2?
Yes.
Councillor Jans, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have two there in the chat. The first one is that administration prepare.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I made an error in my vote. I meant to vote no.
Oh, you intend to
Can I
vote?
recall? Yeah.
Yeah, let's recall the vote, please. Recall the vote. Please vote to recall the vote. Yeah, we're recalling the vote now. You're recalling, vote yes if you're recalling to recall the vote. Yeah. Are we voting on the motion now?
Yes, we're voting on the motion.
We are, okay, we are, okay. All right, we are going to vote on Councillor Principe's motion.
Just waiting on one vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Jans.
Okay,
We have all the votes.
display the votes, please. That is carried 7-5. Okay. Councillor Jans, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I move the subsequent motion that administration provide a report with options and implications of potential changes to the policy, location, and/or extent of secondary corridors within the district plans to reduce development potential at sites, including but not limited to those that are A, along a collective roadway but do not face the corridor roadway, B, separated from the corridor roadway by a fence, berm, alley, and/or a landscape barrier or other barriers, and C, not within 400 meters of a transit station. Due date Q2 2026 Urban Planning Committee. This is directly building off the last item we had.
Hold on, Councillor Jans. We need a seconder.
Second.
And we need to have the motion on the floor so that everybody has the benefit to read it.
Just loading the vote.
No worries. Take your time.
Don't tell that to eScribe.
Yes, e-scribe is. Okay, here we are. Okay, now Councillor Jans, can you please make the introduction?
Yeah, I mean, this in shorthand, this is the Park Allen problem we heard about earlier from the speakers on the question. There's also a similar piece in Duggan here. There's a couple others in your wards that I know each of you have a neighborhood like this where there's a couple of places where we don't exactly have access. So let's take a look at it. Thank you.
Okay, questions, colleagues? Okay, Councillor Cartmel, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Just hold on. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, Councillor Cartmel. I gotta go to legal. Order.
I have no legal issue with
Okay,
this.
got it. Sorry, Councillor Cartmel. Go please, go ahead.
No trouble. So this is limited to secondary corridors, I guess, to the mover.
Yes.
Any thought on both primary and secondary corridors? Go ahead, sorry.
I haven't heard a lot of objection to primary corridors. Those seem pretty explicit. I think what we're looking at, where we have a problem in a few acute areas, is the secondary corridors.
So I guess I'm thinking of one particular primary corridor, and that would be Stony Plain Road from roughly 126th Street to 102nd Avenue, which is tagged as a primary, but looks and feels like a secondary. Roughly from the PGA limit to where Stony Plain Road comes on to 102nd Avenue. That stretch there is one lane each way plus the LRT right-of-way, which is similar to the secondary corridor in Avonmore.
I'm having trouble visualizing it, but I think my main concern here would be these smaller secondary pieces. I think some of those primary pieces have been dealt with through either the PGA conversations or other planning exercises. I'd be curious, though, if you directed that question at admin, what they say.
Yeah, I was about to. So, there is that, maybe thoughts from administration. There is that stretch of Stony Plain Road. Understanding substantially Stony Plain Road is an arterial, at least from 142nd West. But from 142nd Street roughly to 126th Street roughly, it's more of a neighborhood collector-ish kind of a road. Thoughts on that?
So, in terms of the motion on the floor, specific to secondary corridor, so the area that you are referring to, we wouldn't naturally capture this, but when we talked about the subsequent motion that council gave us last year, that conversation and those elements could be picked up within that deliverable piece of work. But you are correct, that is a primary corridor, but it is treated even in the current version of the district plans a little bit different and not quite as wide as some of the other primary corridors to try to account for local context. But we do believe local planning in that area could sharpen up that area as well, that corridor as well.
Is the corridor defined in like by wording policy, or is it defined by the map? So if, you know, I mean, that stretch of road that I'm talking about may be a primary corridor, but it may be defined in the district plan as a fairly narrow corridor, even though it's a primary corridor. Like what kind of trumps? Oh, I shouldn't use that word. What governs?
So the district plans are designed so that, you know, they have general direction. There's the district policy, there are the maps, but there are also area-specific policies within it that take precedence over other direction. So in this case, the Stony Plain corridor, there are none in effect right now. There are no specific policies speaking to that, but that is a mechanism in the district plans that can be used to write specific direction for a particular area, including a node or a corridor.
Okay, well, so I wonder about an amendment that would to tag onto this that would redefine that stretch of road as a secondary corridor, or is that too prescriptive at this point in
I would say that because this motion is to provide a report with options and implications of potential changes, those options and implications could be applied to other circumstances aside from secondary corridors. Like, what would local planning look like if we wanted to make some more surgical or very specific changes within a district would be the subject. This report would speak to that, even if its focus was on secondary corridors.
So if this were to pass, and then the district planning motion that was already in place that was more or less overlapped with the one I withdrew, given that those two motions live and work is going to be done, would that include administration considering or effectively emphasizing work right on the corridor, consolidating rezonings or consolidating greater density right on the corridor, even if there's not a specific motion to direct that emphasis? Is that fair to say that that's going to happen? I don't want to be overly prescribed something, but I don't want to miss this particular piece of road because it's kind of unique in my view.
I think in terms of looking very specifically at this motion, we couldn't assume that would happen through this motion. But as Sean suggested, there are elements of the work that we'll report back on that could be applied to corridors like primary corridors. And when this report comes back, council perhaps could put a motion forward and say, I like that tool for that primary corridor, please apply it there.
Apply it there, okay.
Alternatively, Councillor Cartmel, you could make a motion to be more specific about what your intentions are there.
I'll think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carmel. Councillor Salvador.
Yeah, thank you. Just trying to digest the wording here and the report that would come back. So maybe just to the mover, I apologize. Can you just provide some additional detail around what would be the challenge or problem that you'd be looking to explore solutions to through this work?
I think potentially building off where sites could be considered for additional density. I would like to see some clarity around that. There are sites, I think we agree, that are fairly obvious TOD sites, but then there's others that are not, that are semi-stranded. I can think of another site where, there's basically geographic barrier to walkability and things like that. So what I'm looking for is more clarity around where we're trying to emphasize development or where we're not.
Okay, and to administration, the language is it's explicit around reduced development potential at sites. So you wouldn't necessarily be coming back with a report that has, recommendations as to whether or not we should do this. You'd be coming back with a report that has options for reducing development potential.
Correct.
Is any of this work already underway? Is there anything that's being done just, I guess, to provide further granularity and specificity within secondary corridors.
The broader motion that's been referenced a few times tonight would capture elements of this, but there is no detailed work underway right now for this particular aspect.
Okay. I guess which I'm considering the motion that was just passed, and the conversation that we had around RSM. And again, I'm trying to be aware of the layering effect and recognizing this would come back as a report. I think that gives me some degree of comfort. But I guess would there be an option for administration to provide commentary or recommendation when this comes back as to whether or not these types of changes should even be advanced in the broader city plan context? Does it get us closer or farther away from our city plan goals?
Yes, I think we would look to provide you a bit of a cumulative impact with all of the different elements of work we've talked today. And do these, and would this particular report or this direction get us closer to city plan? That is something we would comment on.
Okay, is there, do you see explicit wording in the motion that would bring that back? Or is there something that we could add in there that would just ensure that holistic picture is also provided when this comes back?
I think the wording from our perspective with the note of options and implications gives us the clarity to provide that.
Okay, the implications piece is important. Great, thank you, that's helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Salvador. Councillor Stevenson.
I think I just answered my own question. So the wording is that administration will provide a report with options and implications of taking the approach of reducing the development potential. Yes? Okay, so it's not, we would have all the information we would need to understand the impacts of such a change and what that change would look like. It's not just preparing the changes to reduce development potential.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Tang.
Maybe just a similar question to the mover then. To the mover. You have, so in this meeting, we have voted to restrict intensification along nodes and corridors as part of the main item. We have further restricted it through the subsequent motion. And so your intent with this subsequent is to build on top of those restrictions to further restrict?
I think it's a question of where the clarity is. Like, we clarified that we didn't want to look here, we wanted to look here. You could call that a restriction, you could call that actually a clearer signal that this is where we want to go. I think similarly here, that's what I'm looking for, a better understanding. Because with respect, I think these things were drawn in a way that there's a couple spots where that may look right on paper, but it doesn't necessarily match the ground.
So that in that case, can I maybe offer friendly amendment rather than reduce development potential at sites, but to clarify development potential at sites?
Yeah.
Would that be okay to the assembly?
So that would read that administrative provide report to options and implication to policy.
Within the district plans to clarify development.
To clarify development instead of reduce. Okay, that's friendly.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
And then just to administration, this doesn't contradict any of the things that we just passed today, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that is, that would be changed to clarify from reduce. Okay, any other questions? I see none. Now to speak. Anyone to speak? I see no one. Councillor Jans to close.
Nothing further.
Okay, vote.
Yes.
No. I am so sorry. Who's that?
Councillor Rutherford is a no.
Oh, Councillor Rutherford is no, okay.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford.
Someone else is on, not in.
I think she's in a loud place.
Okay, no worries. Councillor Rutherford is no.
I'm a
Just-
yes.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Just waiting on one vote. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. Now that is carried.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more subsequent,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
if I may. That
Sorry, point of order.
There has been an amazing set of random adventures ever since.
Sorry, Councillor.
Next we have Avery Eichen there. Avery.
Councilor Rutherford.
I know. There's a lot of background noise. Councillor Rutherford.
I know. I had a personal family wedding.
I know how you feel. I had that last night, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
All right.
I'm trying to walk away from the wedding right now, but I tried to vote on the district plan motion from Councilor Principe, and I couldn't unmute or get to a quiet place in time, and I'd like that vote to be recalled.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Okay, let me go to clerk. So,
Great, so now we're going to move on to the host of the bride. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We have Megan's brother-in-law, Danny Eichen there.
Councillor Rutherford, I'll come to you. If you mute yourself for a minute?
Sure.
Thank you. Clerk, Councillor Rutherford was trying to vote, as far I understand what she's saying. She would like to vote on that. So what is the process? We have to reconsider the vote?
We have to
Re-vote again?
re-vote.
And it's still not in order? I want to make sure that we're still within the same meeting, so it's doable, right?
We have left that motion, but we are still on this item. So I'm just walking this through my brain.
So we're going to reconsider. So it's a two-step process. If you make a mistake when you vote and you just need to change it quickly, you can just do it really quickly. But since you've already moved on, 2 steps. Reconsider it.
Okay.
Then put it back on the floor, please.
Okay, can someone move to reconsider?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, second, please, to reconsider. What we are reconsidering is what Councillor Principe moved earlier on. So that's what we're reconsidering now. So please vote to reconsider. Reconsider, please vote.
Yes. Councilor Rutherford is a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. This one,
yes.
it was Principe's. That one. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rice.
Yes. That was Councilor Salvador.
That's good. Just waiting on 3 votes. Councillor Rutherford is a yes.
Yes, she did, yeah.
Councillor Rice is a yes. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Now, can we please put back on the floor Councillor Principe's motion so everyone knows what we're voting on? That is the motion we are voting on now, so please vote on the. Oh, Councillor Paquette.
Just a very quick word. I see the merit in this motion. The first time we had the chance, I actually voted against it.
I'm sorry. We're not speaking to it now.
This is our motion.
Oh, hold.
Okay, well.
No, this is the wrong one, sorry.
Yep.
Hold on. We gotta get the right one in.
We're just loading the vote. One moment.
Councillor Principe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to remove my motion from the floor.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And I would, I would like to make the subsequent motion to return to urban planning.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your subsequent, then you're restating it to come back to urban planning.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Instead of
Sorry, Mayor Sohi, to be a bit of a stickler, can we just deal with that with unanimous consent? Can you just confirm that that's
withdrawal
good?
is unanimous consent. I have not seen any objections. Okay. Now we are going to go to consider.
I'm a no. I'm a no. I'm a no.
Okay, hi.
Okay,
No
to,
unanimous consent.
Hi.
no
So
to,
before you do that,
Yeah.
you already have a motion on the floor.
yeah.
So now that this has been withdrawn, I suggest
No, it's
you-
not been withdrawn. There's no consent.
Okay,
Councillor Rutherford did not give consent. So we have to vote on it. Okay, right? We have to vote on it now. Okay.
Can we make an amendment?
Or somebody could amend it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right, so please have the motion on the floor.
This one. Do you have it? Can you put it up?
I know e-scribe is a little slow today, it's okay.
Just going to put it up, I promise.
All right, got it. So this is the right motion from Councillor Principe. That is on the floor now. And any amendments to this? Councillor Knack.
Yes, I'll move to amend to have that come back to Urban Planning Committee at the same timeline.
We need a seconder for that.
Second.
Okay. All right, we're going to vote on the amendment. Any questions on the amendment? Councillor Wright.
Time to come back?
Same
Public
time.
hearing? It's not on there. Yeah, but when do we expect it? Oh, okay, I don't see it on there.
Q2 2026 to Urban Planning Committee. Okay. Any questions on the amendment? I see none. Anyone to speak to the amendment? Seeing none? Close to amendment. No, please vote on the amendment.
No. Councillor Rutherford's a no.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We're just loading the vote. It needs to be an amendment. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. Amendment is carried. Now we are back to the original motion, which will come back to the Urban Planning Committee. So please vote on that.
No. Councillor Rutherford's a no.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford.
Got it. Thank you.
Just waiting on one vote. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is defeated. Okay. All right. Now we are back to Councillor Jans. Can you do a second substitute, Councillor Jans?
Yes, and I put it in the chat. This is that administration prepare an analysis of how lodging houses are defined, regulated, and permitted, and provide options to further regulate their size and location to ensure their impacts and their operations are regulated appropriately through zoning bylaw 2001 or business license bylaw 2002, due date Q2 2026 Urban Planning Committee.
Need a seconder.
Second.
Councillor Wright, seconded it. Okay, please make the introduction.
Thank you. I think
Want it on the floor first. And I want to know from legal, is it in order?
Mr. Mayor, there's no legal issue
that's
with the motion? Yeah.
That's fine.
Just loading the vote.
Okay, Councillor Jans, introduction, please.
Thank you. At least for me, when we passed the RS zone and we envisioned more units, I think we were thinking about places where there would be a lot of different choices and a lot of different unit configurations. And we know taste change and design change and everything else. But I think we've seen a couple of examples, and they may be outliers, where I would say even if they're sliding within the letter of the zone, I don't think they're sliding within the spirit of the zone and what we're intending. There was one example I recently learned about that had in a 8-plex, 28 locked bedrooms and bathrooms, so it was functioning as a rooming house. Now I'm trying to get more details about that and how it's complying or not, but we've recognized for a long time that lodging houses need different standards, different regulations, different tenant protections, different pieces than a traditional 4-plex or a traditional 4-plex with basement suites. So that's what I'm trying to get at here. And I think we need some clarity here because we've seen a couple of examples that, while creative and while meeting a need, and somebody is obviously calling home, it may not exactly be the spirit of what we were intending, and a different zone or a different license or a different tool would probably be more appropriate for that. So again, as we refine the zone and we refine what's being built, I think there's some clarity definitely needed here.
Thank you. Councillor Tang.
If I first to the mover, so you are thinking of the lodging house as sort of defined by a lot of the micro suites that we've been hearing a lot in public hearing? Is that right?
Well, depends, because if there are micro suites in a larger zone, that's what we're having that conversation. Is this appropriate for a micro suite? But when there's a mid-block 8-plex that, I look at and I'm like, yeah, that's probably four families up or 4 tenants down. But then I hear that there might be 28 people individually renting in. That doesn't seem like the spirit of what we're talking about. So obviously in any configuration, you could have a 3-bedroom and 3 friends could rent it, or a 3-bedroom and 1 couple and the kids could live in it or something. There's always going to be different configurations, but when it's rented out individually by the bedroom, that's where I think we need some clarity here. So this used to be regulated in the U of A area around, there were specific lodging house regs. And so I think those can be tightened up, and I think around the business pieces too.
So to administration, there is specific lodging house regulations near the university?
There isn't anymore. In the 2010s there were. There was also definitions within the...
Why were they removed?
So along with a lot of work through looking at our zones to ensure that we look to meet the different housing needs of different people and across the housing spectrum, We simplified our use classes as well as our interpretation of sleeping units / lodging houses. So before, for an example, we used to say that you could only have X amount of people if they are related. Obviously, we're not in the business of finding relations of people, so that was simplified to understand that the impact of the unit itself is the impact. It's not how or
So
the
users.
people are arranged inside.
Yeah, I guess, like, I have a situation in my ward where it's not an 8-plex, it's not an 8-unit, it's not a 6-unit, it's a single-family home, where neighbors have said that there's a lot of people living there. Potentially renting a room, like, but it kind of doesn't get captured by really anything, any regulation. I guess I'm just wondering, would this bring back some answers to address what's going on there?
Not sure of that specific instance. What we would do here is we would look at options and then evaluate them and whether or not they're currently in line with our practices, our ability to have enforcement on them as well, because that all comes into play. There's certain things that we just can't enforce on, and so that option analysis will be done.
We can't ask people to prove their relationships, right?
No.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because I think your intent is to regulate these homes, that you're hearing a lot of concerns from neighbors. Yeah, I'm asking them to move it right now. And whereas to me, it doesn't really matter what the form is, because I get the same kind of concerns from people even if it's a single-family home.
Yes, but we have certain business licenses around, like if you're renting 1 unit or 2 units versus if you're renting out a whole apartment building. And this is what, so I agree, like there's some tensions here that we're trying to figure out, and we certainly need student dormitories in some areas, I agree. But I think what this motion is just go back and look at options here. What are the options in terms of how we can use different tools to make sure that some of the worst case scenarios, like the lodging houses, whether it's garbage issues or whatever, different things that have come up, how can we make sure that things are properly managed, just as we want for all rentals?
I think I guess I would like to know some of these answers regardless of what that final form is. Because I think the concerns that everything you're saying, I get as well. But it's not one of these contentious micro suites. It's not a contentious 8-unit. It's a single family home. Right.
Totally. And do you think the motion is open-ended enough to get that?
Is it open-ended enough for you to get that?
Yes, in general, we would look at that relationship between sleeping units, lodging houses, and how the interplay between the zoning bylaw and the business license works.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just to administration, I might have completely made this up in my mind, but please correct me if I'm wrong, but during zoning bylaw renewal, wasn't there some specific work done around lodging houses?
That was mainly around the affordable spectrum and how housing is provided there. So in terms of how we look at sleeping units, we look for an attestation by the applicant to ensure that what they are providing through the development permit meets what the regulations say. So I think that's where the options and the analysis would come into play in terms of how do we maybe have stricter ones, or are we regulating the things that we need to regulate?
Okay, and then maybe on the compliance side, has this come up as an issue?
So in terms of compliance, you don't have the enforcement numbers ahead of me right now. This has been a common complaint that we've received for sure. So it is out there. Whether or not it's been acted upon, I do not know at this time.
Does administration support looking at this?
We can look at it through our current work plan, and we would sort of level set the expectations there that it is additional work. So we'd look to past research to help guide it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Salvador. Any other questions? I see none. Anyone to speak to this? Councillor Jans to close.
Nothing further.
Okay, please vote.
just waiting on one vote. Councillor Rutherford, are you there? We will mark Councillor Rutherford absent.
Okay.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Are there any other subsequents on 3.1 and 3.2? Seeing none, we're done with the first item of the day. All right, okay. Okay, now we are going to next, which is the 3.7, 3.8, and 3.9, right? No? Yeah, 3.7, 8, and 9. Cross-referenced bylaw 2.1.2.3.2 to amend the North Central District Plan, bylaw 2.1.2.3.3 to amend the exhibition lands planning framework, and 2.1.2.3.4 to allow for infrastructure systems and facilities that provide public benefit, Edmonton North lands. Okay. All right.
We had to get limber.
Okay.
Good evening. This application proposes to rezone land to the Public Utility Zone, or PU zone, to allow for the development of stormwater management facilities. Amendments to the North Central District Plan and Exhibition Lands Planning Framework are proposed to facilitate the rezoning. Administrative amendments to both plans are also proposed. Next slide, please. The image on the slide shows the locations of the two proposed stormwater facilities. Site A is where the Edmonton Urban Farm is currently located, and Site B is just north of Borden Park. Next slide, please. Through engagement, which included a meeting with the Edmonton Urban Farmers and Explore Edmonton, administration heard concerns around the closure and relocation of the Edmonton Urban Farm and the associated impacts to farmers, including a loss of community, time, money, investment, and that urban agriculture should be valued more than it is. We also heard some in support, which endorsed the overall redevelopment of exhibition lands. Next slide, please. The proposed PU zone allows for infrastructure, systems, and facilities that provide a public benefit, and it is the appropriate zone for the proposed stormwater management facilities. The PU zone is compatible with the surrounding and existing and planned land uses. Next slide, please. Amendments to maps 1 through 5 of the North Central District Plan are required to add the stormwater facilities. Next slide, please. Amendments to the Exhibition Lands Planning Framework are required to add the stormwater facilities, as the current plan does not contemplate their use. The sites are redesignated from ground-oriented residential to stormwater management facility, and the statistics are updated accordingly. The active modes network has been amended to integrate the stormwater management facilities by ensuring frontage on shared pathways and sidewalks. Administrative amendments are proposed to improve clarity and accuracy in the framework. Next slide, please. This application aligns with Greener as We Grow from the city plan by managing stormwater effectively and improving water quality through the design and development of the built environment. The site is in the Exhibition District node in the North Central District. District nodes are urban centers that provide the needs for nearby neighborhoods. The proposed amendments align with the Exhibition Lands Planning Framework by contributing to the fine-grained network of pathways and open spaces envisioned in the plan. Next slide, please. Administration supports this application. It is compatible with the existing and surrounding planned land uses. It aligns with the objectives of the city plans and the district plan by managing stormwater effectively through the design and development of the built environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, in favor.
Neil Ozuduk. Presentation, Neil? No, it's entirely up to you. You're the applicant. And Lovely Garewal to answer questions only, as well as Brian Horton to answer questions only.
I think I can go straight to questions.
Questions? Okay. All right. Any questions to the applicant? Council Salvador, you exempted this, right?
Yep, yeah.
So please go ahead.
And exempted because I know there were speakers. I'm not sure if they're still with us, but maybe I'll just ask some questions that I would anticipate hearing from speakers, primarily just around the relocation of the urban farm. Recognizing that one of the sites for stormwater management is where the existing Edmonton urban farm is, can you just elaborate on, I guess, the transition plan and future home of the urban farm on site?
Yep, so initially we had planned to move them following this construction season, but with the amendments, we now have to put the pond in the southern portion of where the farm is located. So the decision was made by Explore that they would kind of forego this year's construction season. So we'll begin moving the farm from its current location to its new location in the coming months, and that will be just south of Klondike Park.
Okay, and just for clarity then, because I guess there were questions around the timeliness of the need to move. So if this were to move forward today and advance, would folks expect to see sort of work happening on site right away that necessitated that move?
It's not right away. Where the farm is going is the location for Heritage Festival. So we are waiting until after Heritage Festival, and then we'll start moving things over.
Okay, that's helpful. And then just to reiterate the overall need to go towards the stormwater ponds, I guess that was a decision that was made. Help me understand the decision there.
Yeah, it was about a year ago. We had done some technical work to develop our first phase. Through that work, it was identified that the system that we would have had to use through the approved plan would have escalated costs dramatically for ourselves and also our future and current building partner. So we opted to do the redesign and make everything more cost effective for everybody developing in the area.
Right, okay, thank you for that. And maybe just finally, how does this work line up with, I guess, the first parcel for development?
So the improvements that we're going to be making, so the storm and everything, that service is this first phase. So we'll be out there this year working on that, probably wrapping it up next year. And then our development partner will be coming in right after us. They actually, I believe, have a rezoning application on August 19th that follows this one. So they're moving ahead, and it's all contingent on our work.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Tank.
Yeah, great, thank you. I've been in touch with a few farmers who obviously live all over the city and participate in some of the engagement. So can I just clarify that while you are moving the farm, come after Heritage Festival, but there is temporary storage facility for farming stuff?
I could jump in on that for you, Neil. This is Lovey, project lead for the exhibition lands. Yeah, we administration has worked closely with Explore Edmonton to ensure that any items that need to be stored over the winter months that can't be taken by the farmers themselves can be stored on the north portion of the site or in other arrangements made by Explore Edmonton, who ultimately is the administrator of the farm.
So that is confirmed, that is in progress, that site just on the north is available for people to to store things?
Yeah, I'd have to have that discussion with Explore Edmonton just to get you full clarity on what items are being stored there and what items wouldn't require storing there. I know some items were taken by the farmers, but other items are being left there on the north portion of the farm.
I'm also wondering, because you've had a few engagements, conversations with these folks. At any time, given this is a very unique project as well, with most of the farmers being English as their second, third, or fourth language, lots of newcomers, did you have any support from, I don't know, like city social development branch, folks who might have some of the relationships with some of the nonprofits there?
I would say in our initial engagements that were held with the farmers in conjunction with Explore Edmonton, that is where we really sort of learned that a large majority of the farmers were English speaking as a second language. From that point, we worked closely with Explore Edmonton, and obviously those external groups that help connect those individuals with Explore Edmonton and the urban farm as well, to have some of the presentation and engagement material translated for their languages as well. And then I believe that my colleagues here that were presenting the application, Clarence Saffron, I believe, had some engagement as well that included some translation.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about the most I can answer that one, Councillor. Sorry.
Okay, so you have provided, or eventually after these meetings, you have provided things in writing back to the farmers directly.
Yeah, that's my understanding. We rely heavily on our partners there, Explore Edmonton, as they're the administrator. So anything that goes out go farm itself.
Because I understand there's a lot of people didn't necessarily believe that it's actually the relocation was going to happen, and so they were looking for some validation and confirmation, and so I just wanted to know, like, that's conveyed also in writing as well.
Yes, we conveyed in writing in multiple engagement sessions and in materials that were forwarded to the farmers and those groups that the farm indeed would be relocated to its proposed location.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave that there.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Councillor Wright.
Hi, thank you. Sorry. Councillor Tang talked about storing items. Did they plant this year?
It depends on when some of the planting happened. There was some planting done in the fall of 2024 in preparation for the 2025 season, before in which time that we had done our technical studies to add these storm facilities, where under the presumption at the time that they would still have a growing season for 2025. So some farmers, I'd say a good group of farmers, did plant materials late in the season in 2024 for 2025. With that said, we did provide opportunity at the beginning of this growing season, all of May and I believe parts of June as well, in working with Explore Edmonton to provide access to the farm so that farmers could retrieve those assets.
Okay, but I'm just wondering if they planted stuff by the end, or when's Heritage Days? Beginning of August, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're going to move them, like there will be produce that still needs to be harvested that wouldn't be ready in the middle of August. And I'm also wondering about any perennials and the trees that they have there.
So anything that has not been relocated as of now will be considered lost in the move. And there was, again, more of a question for our counterparts at Explore Edmonton, but I do know in my conversations with them that individuals that did have some perennials or trees and shrubs of that nature, we're able to successfully move some of those items as well.
Okay, because I know there was,
Yeah.
there was a number of different fruit trees and apple trees there, so I was just wondering, okay. And then the current, or sorry, the site that it's being moved to is that covered in concrete? Like, I'm just wondering about what sort of site prep needs to be done there.
It is currently covered in asphalt,
Okay,
so that'll be part of our work to
and
go
so
there and
any remediation, like of any sort of contaminants that might seep into the soil from the asphalt?
I don't believe there are any contaminants there. But yeah, all of the costs associated with the move are part of our project cost.
Okay, and they will, will the farmers also sort of have a part in making sure that the soil is prepared properly for them?
So we'll be bringing soil there for them if there's additional modifications that they want to do as part of the work in their plot. I know some of them do like to modify their own soil.
Okay.
That would be something that obviously they would be able to do.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. So that concludes all the questions on this to the proponent. Now we will go to folks in opposition. I will call your name if you're here or joining remotely. Sarah Meticio, are you there? How about Afshin Pero? Sarah Meticio, Afshin Pero. Nope, no questions. I'm sorry, not available. Questions to administration. Councilor Salvador? Nope. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would just ask any similar questions I would ask similar questions to administration that I asked to the proponent around just certainty around the new location for the urban farm. And was there anything on this, like, again, city side that was sent out to Councillor Tang's point, kind of in writing, just crystal clear to provide that reassurance? I know I was present for one of the sessions, and there was still sort of, I guess, a bit of fear that it might not materialize. But my recollection is there was not only engagement sessions, but a council motion directing that the new farm is on site.
Councillor Salvador, we're a little bit later in the process, but yeah, our application notices, and our public hearing notices have at least 5 different languages on there, so it would have been clear at that point. Right. But that would have only been within the last sort of 6 months when we started communicating. We did attend a joint meeting of sorts with Explore Edmonton, our colleagues in real estate, and planners from our team to explain sort of the entire process and where we were at. So everyone was invited to that meeting. Explore Edmonton did have an agenda. There was a presentation made by real estate and by our team. So in terms of writing, there was writing, but as a mailed notice goes, it would be those
standard.
Yeah, the postcards.
Yeah. Okay, and maybe so. Just looking at some of the feedback that's in the actual report around the meeting with the urban farmers, March 18th. I guess, so that feedback was captured at the March 18th meeting. Was there also, I guess, an opportunity to respond to some of that feedback? Like, if there were concerns shared about the future of the farm, there was also an opportunity for folks from Explore to maybe provide clarity or certainty around that location. It wasn't just an information gathering session, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There was there back and forth and dialogue there?
There was,
okay.
Yeah, and then there wasn't further updates that were sent. You could go back to the real estate team, but also I can let you know because we were looped in on those updates that went back to the farmers to answer any questions that would have come out of that session.
Okay, and then maybe just one slightly different question. I guess recognizing there's also a different but related body of work related to exhibition lands and the usage of space on site for Explore Edmonton and Expo. How does this work intersect with that?
Can you be more specific for me?
Sure. So there was a motion a while ago directing administration to go back and have a conversation with Explore Edmonton and bring back some options for space reallocation and actually looking at the overall exhibition lands planning framework to see how we could ensure that Explore Edmonton's needs are accommodated on site. Is that?
Yes, so for the most amount of detail that you're looking for, I'd have to defer to the applicant and the real estate team, but I do know that that engagement is ongoing.
And I guess my question would be, is this work in front of us considering that ongoing work? Or would this would be happening regardless, I guess, is what you're... Is that fair?
Yes, because this one is a direct response to the immediacy of the needs of construction, but also the almost immediate needs of the urban farmers to be relocated. The timing isn't exactly perfect for the next location to come online.
Right.
But it's pretty close, and it's close in terms of proximity, it's close in terms of construction timelines,
For sure.
And it's going to be a purpose-built space for those farmers.
Great. Okay, that's helpful clarity. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Councilor Salvador. And I'll ask this time if there are questions to administration or proponent and on any new information arising out of previous conversation. I see none. Councilor Salvador, you want to close the public hearing?
I'll move closure.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, please vote to close the public hearing on these two bylaws.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. 3, actually.
It didn't show. Mayor, the vote was carried.
Vote was carried. Okay, first reading.
Yep, I'll move first reading.
Second?
Okay. All right, we have first reading on the floor. Anyone to speak? See none. Councilor Salvador to close.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll be brief, but just want to say appreciate this application coming forward and would encourage my colleagues to support it. This is a really important piece for being able to support the development at Exhibition Lands, both in the immediate term, as we know the first parcel is ready to go, and future development on the site as things start to accelerate over time. Really appreciate what was included in the report around the feedback from folks who are at the urban farm, and again, good to know that there is a very real and permanent home for the urban farm that's going to be on Exhibition Lands just north of Borden Park. And good to know that there will be permanent infrastructure as part of that, not just sort of a direct transition and moving of infrastructure, but purpose-built space so that that farm can continue to serve not only the folks who grow there, but the wider community as well. So thank you very much for consideration of this, and again, would encourage folks to support it.
Thank you. Please vote.
Just wait. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
I'll move second reading.
Second?
Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
I'll move consideration of third reading.
Second.
Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
I'll move third reading.
Second.
Please vote.
Just waiting on 2 votes. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. So our next items are, I think, 3.23 and 3.24, right? Okay. Let me go to the... All right, so there's no one in opposition, right, on those? Don't need a presentation? Okay. No need for a presentation. Okay, then we'll go to in favor. Yeah. We have Kyla Ottaway to answer questions only. Select engineering consultants. Bladen Dibben to answer questions only. Select engineering consultants. And Louis Donnan to answer questions only. Jen Starr, all joining remotely. So questions to the proponent, Councillor. Okay. Councillor Principe, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to the proponent, I'm inclined not to support this simply because there is parks and services space being taken away in to increase the density in the area. Is that correct?
Hello, Mayor and Council. This is Bladen Dibben. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. There is, 0.5 hectares of municipal reserve being removed from the plan, but it's a 9.3 hectare school site, typical site, and this would include a community league as well. A typical site would only need 7.92 hectares, so this site is oversized, and we're reducing it from 9.3 down to 8.8. So it's still quite large, almost a hectare larger than it needs to be, and it includes space for a K-9 school, community league, and there's trails that go east, west, and north, south, all the way up to the approved site in the north.
And does that?
So this is.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Please ask.
Oh, I was just going to say, the numbers that you're quoting, does that include the portion that was taken out from the last? We had another public hearing just recently where a portion of that land was also removed to accommodate cul-de-sac. So
correct that. Through you, Mayor Sohi. Yes, that this amendment was delayed, waiting for that one to gain approvals, so that this could reflect the changes in that previously approved amendment that was put forward by a different developer.
Right, and yeah, my concern is just that piece by piece we're taking away from that space, and I had stated before that I was not in favor of increasing the density in this area, and I see this. I'm just looking for you to, if there's anything that you can say to convince me that it's really important for this rezoning to take place in order let's see, with the last one, I know it was a different proponent, but it was to accommodate a cul-de-sac, something that I think would be welcoming in the neighborhood. But I'd have a really hard time convincing the people I represent that it's a good idea to take away park space to increase the density.
Through you, Mayor Sohi, thank you, Councillor, for the question. The 0.5 hectares, so there's an increase overall in the statistics of 47 units, but there's an actual decrease in the amount of medium density residential. We're removing a medium density site right east to the east of the school site and replacing it with low density. So those would be, houses and in that area, and straightening out that site. The reason we're reducing it is it just creates a north-south straight edge, which allows for more efficient layout of the roadways and more low density in there. And that's the increase in density. There's an increase in units, but not a major increase in density. The townhouse site that we're removing, we're allocating pieces of it to the 2 apartment sites which were previously approved in the neighborhood, making them a little bit more efficient as well, more regular shaped so that they can have a bit more frontage onto Crystalina near a drive. And then the other one is on 66th Street. So we're not, it's a very minor increase in density, and we're actually increasing the number of low density houses by 18 and the number of medium density units by 29. So they're very small increases, but it's increases to existing sites, not creating new multifamily sites. We're actually removing a multifamily site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. Any other questions to the applicant? No. And there's no one in opposition. Okay. Now we go to questions to administration. No? All right, then any new information? Any questions on new information? Colleagues, no? We ready to close the public hearing?
Okay, sure. I'll move closure of the public hearing on items 3.23 and 3.24.
Second.
Okay, please vote. No, to close the public hearing. Okay. All right.
Just waiting on one vote.
This.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. First reading.
Mayor Sohi, I'll move first reading of item 3.23 and 3.24.
Second.
Okay, now we have first reading on the floor. Now to speak. 20 minutes. Okay, anyone to speak?
Mayor Sohi, I'm trying to log on and it's spinning.
Okay, why don't you start, Councillor Hamilton? Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to once again implore my colleagues to please to ask the questions you have before we get to a public hearing, as this is another example of a place in which, regardless of the material nature of the questions, but as we've dealt with all day, we have a number of files that need to be addressed, and we're quite backed up now. And so anything we can do to move a file forward and satisfy our inquiries. I understand a desire for transparency, but I also think that there's a way to communicate one's concerns transparently with in a variety of manners. So once again, I will implore my colleagues to attempt to address their concerns on files without opposition or speakers in advance of public hearing, if that is indeed to be the case. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Principe?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. I thought I was closing, but I'm not because I did not move this. I just wanted to say that I selected this item to vote on it for voting purposes. I did ask a question to the proponent, not to administration, but to the proponent. I did have a meeting with the proponent, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. And this is why we are here today. So I'm good to vote now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Principe. Councillor Knack, you want to close?
No, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Briquette.
Yeah, just really quickly, the ward councillor is going to know her ward the best. And so I'm not sure where she's going to land on that. I was hoping to know, so it would give me some direction on the way that I might think about this. But in absence of an opinion, because I don't know the ward as well, and it looks like it's a sensible move and still retains even more than the needed school area, I might vote in favor here. So, but otherwise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Knack? No?
Still no.
No? Come on, we have 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, please vote.
Just waiting on one vote. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay.
So that was just first reading, so I think I still need to do second reading.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
No, why not?
I'll move second reading of those two items.
Second.
Okay, second reading. Please vote for the second reading.
Just waiting on one vote. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried.
Mayor Sohi, I'll move consideration of third reading on items 3.23 and 3.24.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Okay, so just
I'd still like to,
one more?
If
Okay,
you'd like,
last,
I could do,
okay,
I
sure,
could do
why
third reading
not?
if you
Go ahead.
prefer.
Okay,
Yeah.
please, yeah, go ahead.
I will move third reading of bylaw 21165 and bylaw 21166.
Second.
Thank you. Third reading. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. You want to do another reading? No. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's then, okay. So tomorrow is Canada Day. So happy Canada Day, everyone, in advance, and have fun. And then Wednesday is, hi, Aileen. Hi. Wednesday is council meeting, right? July 2nd. And then on Thursday, we will start with council meeting at 9:30 and council meeting to be concluded at 10, right? Sorry, Friday. So just hold on. So I'll come back to second then. Okay, July 2nd is council. And Thursday, we are going to carry on with this public hearing at 9:30.
Correct.
And do we go till 5?
Correct.
Okay, we'll go till 5. And then on Friday, the July 4th, we will start with with council meeting.
Correct.
At 9:30, go till 10 o'clock.
Yep.
Conclude by 10. If then we'll deal with whatever is remaining at that time on council. Then we will start with this public hearing at 10:30 if we are not done on Thursday.
Correct.
Okay. And if we are still not done on Friday, we will go till what time?
Till 5 o'clock.
Till 5, okay.
And is it possible just to do a recap for anybody still with us on what items we're dealing with from the public hearing that are left over?
Yeah, I
from
will
today?
I'll come to that in a minute. So we will go till 5, and if we are still not done, then we will decide on Friday what to do with to conclude that item, right? Okay. Now,
Yeah.
what is remaining on the agenda?
So before we get to that, so Friday, if you think you're going to be continuing to the following week because it is council recess, I can confirm based on the information I have, you will have quorum. So council, based on your availability, this council can have quorum from 9:30 to 5 each day next week.
Okay.
But because it is recess, it's entirely possible that staff have flights booked. And so if you would like people to plan on adjusting their schedules, I'd suggest that that be considered on Thursday.
Yes.
And that a decision would be made early Friday morning because
Absolutely.
the people you see here is about a quarter of the people that it takes to make this happen, and I think we should give them notice.
Yeah, so
yeah, thank
Thursday
you.
before, we will get a good sense where we are, and then we will decide to carry on beyond Friday if need be, or even have a backup. Okay, so what is remaining on the agenda now? Can we just publicly state that what is remaining on our agenda?
So
Only-
Mayor, what is
only-
remaining on the agenda for July 3rd is item 3.32. And
Okay.
the rest of the items were postponed to the August 18th City Council public hearing. Those items are 3.4 and 3.5, 3.11, 3.13 and 3.14, 3.17, 3.18, 3.25, 26, 27, and 28, and 3.31.
Okay, all right. Any clarifying questions, colleagues, before we leave? So we are very clear what we're coming to on Thursday. Seems like everyone knows what we're doing on Thursday. Okay. Oh, Councillor Tang. That's it? Okay, good. We know what we're doing. All right, okay. Until then, we are on the recess. I know this was a long, long day. I want to really thank Councillor Cartmel for starting the meeting, chairing the meeting. I was able to, listen in all through, and I want to thank staff and everyone else, and apologize to the members of the public whose items we were unable to get to. Hopefully, we'll catch up with the agenda over the next month or so. Cool. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, bye.